Converting access points. What do you mean, Keith? Like converting over to Juniper or to HP? What are you talking about? No, I'm talking about converting them between their two methods of operation: standalone autonomous access point or controller-based lightweight access point. That's what we're going to talk about in this video. I'd like you to imagine that you and I are starting a brand new business, and because we want to be cost effective at the very start, we're not going to purchase, a wireless LAN controller and multiple access points. To start with, maybe we just buy one access point. And we also realize that there's access points that can actually work with a controller, or with the right software, they can act as autonomous access points. So by purchasing an access point that can go either way, we could potentially use that same access point as we grow our network and add the controllers to it. So let's say we purchased one, and let's say this is it right here. So we get it and we're looking at it, we plug in a cable. Maybe our switch doesn't even have power over Ethernet, so we also use the power connector right there. We plug in a console cable as well, so we can see what's happening. We boot it up, and what we see on the console is we see that this access point is trying to go through the zero-touch process. Meaning it's looking through DNS, trying to do DNS requests, trying to resolve that CAPWAP name. It's hunting for option 43 in DHCP. It's doing a local broadcast with the hopes that there's a local controller on that same subnet. And then when it's all done and it can't find a controller because we don't have one, because we're going to run this access point as an autonomous access point without any controller, unfortunately, we're in a little bit of a bind. Because when this thing is going through all its work and can't find the controller, it's very likely going to wait and then reboot and try it again, and then wait and reboot and try it again. Or it might stall at the command line. In either case, if it's going through this zero-touch process, trying to find a controller, it is not running the correct code that you and I need it to run to be an autonomous access point. So what I want to share with you right now is a very quick and easy solution to bootstrap an access point so that it has the operating system that it needs, the iOS that it needs to behave the way we want it to, which is in autonomous access point mode. Now the two options we have are lightweight, which refers to being split MAC, where we have the CAPWAP protocol, we're being managed by a controller. That's a lightweight access point. I guess they call it lightweight because it doesn't have to do all of the thinking. The controller does a lot of the thinking for it. The standalone access point we call an autonomous AP, all by itself. It's just the access point and us managers configuring that access point directly. Here are the ingredients that we're going to have in place to make this bootstrapping possible. We're going to have a TFTP server, and we're also going to need the appropriate image or images for the access point. Besides the revision numbers, which get bigger as new versions come out, there's also a couple letters and numbers inside of the image name that give away the secret regarding, is this an image for a standalone autonomous access point, or is this an image for a lightweight access point that's going to need a controller? And here's the secret. The lightweight is going to have in it K9W8. And the easy way to remember that for the lightweight image, it's K9W8. I'd like you to think about these two characters right there. If you saw that on a license plate, just W8, how would you read it? What would it say? It would say weight, as in lightweight. So the W8 refers to an access point image that's being controlled and managed by a controller. Now on the other side of that coin, for example in our case where we want an autonomous standalone access point, the image we want is going to have a W7. Another logical question is, okay Keith, where exactly do we get the latest and greatest versions of these software, either for the lightweight or for the autonomous AP? And the answer is Cisco's website. You'd log in with your Cisco login, go to the download section, and there you download the software for the access points that you've purchased. Once you have that software downloaded from Cisco, you're going to put those images on a local TFTP server, which could be your own Windows computer or a Linux box. As long as you have a TFTP service running and available, that's great. Now this next part is pretty tricky, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to take, in our case, we're going to go for an autonomous access point. We're going to take our image file that has K9W7 in it, and we are going to copy it so we have two image files on that TFTP server. We have the first one with the original name, and the second one we are going to rename. And here's what we're going to rename it to. We are going to rename it to platform. For example, let's say, we bought 1130 AG. That's the flavor of access point that we purchased. It'd be C1130, that's the platform, dash K9W7 dash TAR.default. Now that's going to be significantly different than the original file name we got. Now you might be asking, well, Keith, how come we have the original file we downloaded and now we have a copy of that with this name? And the reason is because when we take this access point, we unplug it, so we're not plugged in, we're going to hold down this mode button right there. So you get a pen or a pencil or a paper clip, hold down that button, and then we're going to apply power. When we apply power, after about 20 seconds-ish, one of these lights is going to turn red. It's going to turn solid red. After it goes red, we can let go of the mode buttons. And what's going to happen is this guy is automatically going to give himself the IP address of 10.0.0.1. And it's going to do a broadcast TFTP request looking for this file. If we have our TFTP server with this file in that same subnet of 10.0.0, so for example, our TFTP server, we might give him the address of 10.0.0.2 or 3 or 4. And when this access point gets the response that that file is available, because the TFTP server responded, that file will be downloaded and extracted and put on the flash of this access point. How long that takes might be 2 to 5 minutes, depending on the speed of your TFTP server. Once it's done, this access point will automatically reboot and it will run that new image. So for an access point that doesn't have the code on it that you want and it is not currently connected to a controller, this is the quickest and easiest way to get the job done. So here's another dirty little secret that I like to do, and that is, this is VLAN 20 right here where I have my access points, my production ones. If we wanted to add a new access point, we could plug him into VLAN 20. And you know what we could also do? We could take a TFTP server, also plug him into VLAN 20, and we could give him the address of 10.0.0.2. But you're saying, well, Keith, wait, this is the 172.16.20 subnet. You can't possibly have two different logical networks in the same layer 2 VLAN. And the answer is, yes, we could. So this TFTP server is only going to be used in the event that we have an access point. We've held down the mode button for about 22 or 23 seconds till the LED went red. We let go. It gets the IP address of 10.0.0.1. It does the broadcast for the TFTP server. And presuming that TFTP server has the files we need, the access point will download that, reboot itself, and we're ready to go. So what I'd love to do with you right now is let's go ahead and do this. Let's take one of our 3 access points. I've got AP1, AP2, and AP3, and we can take one of those and we'll convert them. Right now they're all operating in lightweight mode and like to follow the instructions of a controller, and that means they're also currently running a version that has K9W8 in the image file. So let's go ahead and pick on access point 3. So all we need to do is prepare the infrastructure. I'll put a TFTP server with this IP address in VLAN 20 where that AP already is. Then we'll simply remove power, hold down the mode button for at least 20 or so seconds till the red LEDs come on, release the mode button, and this access point will do all the rest of the work. So here's my switched infrastructure. Here's the 3 access points in order. On ports 13, 14, and 15, they're all in VLAN 20. I've also got, through a couple of creative connections, a virtual machine that's currently connected on port gig 0/23. And it's this device on that port that's running TFTP and has an IP address of 10.0.0.2. Or if it doesn't yet, we'll verify that together before we power cycle access point 3, holding down the mode button. So this is the virtual computer that's connected to port 23 on that switch, which is also in VLAN 20. And I've downloaded a couple of files. I've got the C1130 K9W7, which is the autonomous AP image. And I've also got C1130 K9W8, which we would use for lightweight access point in conjunction with a controlled environment with a controller. So here's the secret. You just take the file that you want. In this case, we want the one that has the K9W7, and we're going to rename it to the file that the access point is going to be looking for when it boots after us having held down that mode button. So to make this really easy, check this out. I simply made another folder, and I renamed it right here. So if we were on a different model of access point, those first 5 characters may change a little bit, but the K9W7-tar.default, that won't. So I'm going to copy this. We'll go up one folder. I'm going to paste it right here because this is the root of my TFTP server. So if we look at the file sizes, they are identical. So this is a little over 5.5 meg, and that's 5.5 meg. So this is just a copy, if you will, of that file with the name that the access point is going to be looking for. Next, let's verify our IP address on this device. So we'll right-click on Network Connections, right-click there, go to Properties, And I suppose we could, I suppose we could have just done IP config, but if we need to change it, we need to change it here. So it is 10.0.0.2, which looks great to me. So we'll click on OK and OK again. And let's start our TFTP server. So I'm going to run 3com daemon and just check the settings real quick to make sure I'm pointing at the right folder. So TFTP_root is where that renamed file is sitting, which is perfect. So we'll click on OK. And now he is sitting there waiting at 10.0.0.2 for any TFTP requests. So we'll dismiss him. And now let's open up a CLI session to the console port of access point 3. So let me give you the play-by-play. So we powered off the access point, we held down the mode button, plugged it in, held it till the lights went red, and then released, and that time was 31 seconds. It was paying attention to that. So when it booted up, it says, okay, great, I know what to do. I'm going to set my default IP address to 10.0.0.1, and I'm going to broadcast a TFTP request looking for this exact file. Now, fortunately, that file was on the TFTP server at 10.0.0.2, so it found it, and it started downloading all of that content. It also said, you know what, I don't have enough room for the whole file. What I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to delete some of your images on flash right now that you have to make room for this new image. And that's completely okay as well. And the reason that's okay is because if we need to go back to lightweight mode, working with a controller, we can use a similar process, and I'll walk you through that as well. So if we scroll down, it did a whole bunch of extracting, etc., etc. Here's a really huge file in this part right here. And then when it was done, it said, okay, that took 438 seconds. I'm going to go ahead and reboot with this brand new image. So after a few more moments, it completely booted up with the new image. And here we can confirm the K9W7, W7 indicating what? Indicating that it is autonomous mode. It's the image for an autonomous access point. There's the specifics of the version. Here's a little console message indicating that we've negotiated power successfully. If we scroll down a little further, we can also see here that it successfully got an IP address from a DHCP server. So the logical interface on an access point is BVI, the Bridge Virtual Interface. So BVI1 has the IP address that was assigned from the DHCP server. And if we scroll down a little further, we can use some of our basic Cisco iOS commands. Now, an access point in autonomous mode, the CLI and the iOS feels and looks a lot like it does on a traditional Cisco router or switch. On the other hand, in lightweight mode, where an access point is working with a controller, we still have a CLI at the access point, but the commands are significantly different. So for here, things like show interface BVI1 will help us validate what the actual IP address is, or show IP interface brief. Also, initially, it didn't put me in privilege mode. So I actually had to type in enable, and the password to get into privilege mode was capital C ISCO. So the ISCO is lowercase with a capital C. And we're in. Hey, so let's use HTTP to take a look at the graphical user interface of this autonomous AP. So now if we open up a browser to HTTP 172.16.20.86, the IP address that's assigned to this autonomous access point, we can go ahead and log in. There is no username, but we do have a password, and that is capital C and then an ISCO. And we'll press enter to go ahead and log in. So via the browser, you can configure all the details you wanted regarding this access point. The reality is we have to configure all of that on this access point because there's no controller that's going to tell this access point exactly how to behave. We have to do it through the interface. So there's an express setup, and that'll get us going in the right direction. So for example, if we wanted to call this guy standalone or change any of the other parameters here, we can simply scroll down to the very bottom after we make our changes, and down here in the bottom right, click apply. And we'll say, okay, great. If we want to put a new wireless network up, all we need to do is name it. So we can call this Acme or whatever we wanted to name the SSID. Do we want that SSID advertised? Very likely yes. In our nugget on SSIDs and VLANs, we identified from a switch perspective in preparing for the devices that are going to connect that we might connect some devices to a trunk port and other devices to an access port. Well, if we have lightweight access points, they connect to access ports on a switch. Wireless LAN controllers connect to trunk ports. Now, an access point that is standalone, if we're going to be supporting multiple VLANs, the autonomous access point would also be connected to a trunk port if we're going to be supporting multiple VLANs. And as a reminder, if we're using hybrid remote edge access points or Flex Connect, because they'll have the ability, if configured, to make local switching decisions, perhaps even between VLANs, HREAP and Flex Connect also would need to have trunk ports. Now, the reality is this access point that we're looking at right here is connected to an access port on the switch. So if we were going to enable multiple VLAN support, we would need to change the switch port configuration and make it a trunk. And that would be if we wanted to use multiple VLAN IDs. If this access point is not going to support multiple VLANs, for example, it's in VLAN 20, and we want all the clients who associate with this access point to also be in VLAN 20, we can leave the connection to this access point as a standard switch access port. And then regarding security, we can set up the security that we want. We have a separate set of nuggets on security. Having no security is pretty simple though, because the authentication is really, really quick. And if we want to save that, we'd simply scroll to the bottom again and click on apply. After we click on apply and we want to see what wireless networks we've created, we can scroll to the bottom and they're listed for us right here. So let's verify that Acme is there. So we'll go ahead and just clear off everything that's not 802.11a. And there we have it. So I've got Acme, pretty strong signal in the 5 gigahertz range on channel 56. And so what I'm going to do is let's go ahead and associate with this access point. And again, I'm going to do it from my iPhone because it's right here in my hand. So now I'm connected with my iPhone, and what's happening is the access point, because it's really just a extension, if you will, of VLAN 20, because this access point, which is now autonomous, is connected to an access port on the switch that's a member of VLAN 20. So anybody who associates with this access point, and they do, for example, a DHCP discover, it's going to go through the access point as a broadcast. And there is indeed a DHCP server on VLAN 20. So that's how my little iPhone and any other device that associates with this access point is going to be given an IP address through DHCP, along with a default gateway. And supposing that routing is set up on the infrastructure, I should be able to ping and have full access on the network, like any other client in VLAN 20. So now that a client's connected, if we want to see the status of that connection, we can go to Home. And here it's indicating that we have one current client that's attached. If we click on that link, it shows us here's the IP address of that client who got his address through DHCP. And if we want to see more details, we can click on the hyperlink for the MAC address of that iPhone client. So that's how you convert a lightweight access point over to a standalone autonomous access point. Now the trick is, how do we get it back? Let's say we want to take this autonomous access point and turn it back into a lightweight access point that can work with a controller, because we need a different flavor of software for that. And here's the trick of how to do that. We could do a copy of TFTP over to the flash file system with our traditional iOS commands. They would work great. Or, check this out, we could go back to our TFTP server and take the K9W8 image and simply rename it with that default extension. And then follow the exact same process. Hold down the mode button, boot it up with that mode button held down until the LED goes red, let it go. It then looks for the TFTP server on the 10 network. It looks for this file, and even though this file has that 9W7 in it, this is just a placeholder for whatever real file is hiding behind that name. So if we put the K9W8 and rename it as this, it'll suck it right back down, reboot, and we'll be back into lightweight mode in a couple reboots. So let's go back to our TFTP server. I'd like to show you that real quick. So we'll go back to the folder where that is, which is right here. I'm going to delete this 9WK tar default file. Right click and say delete. Yes. And then I'm going to take the W8, which is the lightweight image, this guy right here. And in this folder, I have it renamed to that default file name. So I'm just going to go grab it, right click, copy, move up one folder, and paste it right here in the root of my TFTP server folder. So if you look at the file size, 5060 and 5060, this lightweight image is now hiding behind that name. And all we got to do is simply remove power from access point 3, hold the mode button until it goes red, takes about 15 to 20 seconds, release that, it boots up, and it's going to get that image. There are some additional tools that we can also use to convert access points between autonomous and lightweight. There's a separate nugget in this series on the command line interface to implement many of these changes. So the commands required to do that at the controller to tell an access point to go ahead and convert, I'll cover in the CLI nugget that we do together. In this video, we've identified what it takes to convert an access point from lightweight to autonomous or autonomous to lightweight. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.